Hello everyone. I am Furai, and today we are reacting to um Timeline of the Lore by Skyrionn. Yep. However you read that name, dude. So I was watching a previous stream, but something came up, so I'll continue watching it now before we play Silk Song, you know? Gotta know the lore. Gotta understand what's going on. All that jazz. Anyway, I might cut the stream short if there's an earthquake, but you know it is what it is. Let's just jump into it. All right. Oh, okay. I'm gonna play. Let's step back a few seconds before we stop, just to give us a little bit of context.
Call of Un to return to the dream. Yet, while territorial, they welcomed the Pale King and allowed him to have roads constructed across their land. However, they also left a warning. If any strayed from the king's road, they would face the laws of Un. The Pale King also asked for more from the Moskin. He and the White Lady liked the luscious region of Greenpath so much that they decided to claim the entire southern region. The Queen's Garden still resembled the dream that Un had created it from, but as a retreat for the Queen, it was
Hey,
adapted
Killmonger.
with greenhouses and statues of royalty.
I'm just playing some
As this
Musume.
area
All right.
had been annexed from Greenpath, it was heavily guarded and only those chosen by the king
I
or
see.
queen
So the
were
Green Path
allowed
and the Howl Nest are in
access.
harmony,
While
apparently.
several of the tribes within the borders of Hallownest had agreed to become a part of the kingdom, there were
Oh,
others who refused
is
to
it the
cooperate.
Weavers?
The Weaver
Yeah.
and Spider tribe of Deepnest had no interest in becoming a part of the Pale King's kingdom. They wanted the land for themselves. The
Makes
Mantis
sense.
tribe also declined the Pale King's offer to
The
join the
fourth
kingdom
mantis
of
looks so funny,
Hallownest.
man. He looks so
In
out of
this
place.
case, however, a deal was made between the two parties. The
Ah,
Pale
I
King
see.
offered the Mantis Lords their sovereignty if they kept the aggressive population of Deepnest sealed in.
I think the first, or rather the traitor Mantis Lord, I don't think they were that fat before the Radiance, the power of Radiance. I think they got bloated because of the Radiance.
Side, in which they agreed. There was also the bees of the hive to the east. Their hive had been constructed within the kingdom's borders, but their queen, Queen Vesper, decided to
Fatty.
keep out of the problems and politics of a growing kingdom as the hive sealed their entrances. Although
I
some
heard the
had
Hive
chosen
is
not
like
to
a
become a
DLC.
part of the kingdom of Hallownest, the Worm's Beacon did bring travelers from other lands, and they came upon the relics of an ancient civilization, one of which was found to the
Alright,
north
Colosseum
of the
of
kingdom's
Ruins.
edge. Several travelers discovered the large remains of an ancient
Oh, so
beast.
that's not a
It was
worm?
inside that they formed the Colosseum of Fools, an arena of entertainment where the strongest warriors fought trials. Having pulled together the tribes of Hallownest, the Pale King and White Lady
Yep.
watched as the rest of the kingdom flourished in the caverns above the White Palace. King's Pass welcomed
Why?
new bugs to the
Alice.
kingdom of Hallownest with a large bridge that led to the small town of Dirtmouth. Although modest, it offered access to the crossroads below, stores that sold
So what does
interesting
Dirtmouth
wares,
has to do
easy
have to do
access
with
to
the
the
Howl
top of
Nest?
Crystal
Are they
Peak,
just
a
like
graveyard for the fallen, and even the opportunity to meet Confessor Gigi.
so are they just like some sort of backwater town in terms of the kingdom?
A powerful entity who had the ability to manipulate void in
Hmm.
return for a rancid
Yeah, I still don't know
life.
what that guy does. I
The
assume it
creation
returns
of the
your
crossroads
ghost
below
somehow.
Dirtmouth allowed the kingdom to pulse with life as the bugs explored the towns and cities. Hallownest thrived in trade, refuge, and adventure. While Sol was regarded as a great energy source, Hallownest relied mostly on the crystals of Crystal Peak
Oh,
to
so that's
power
an
the
energy
kingdom.
source. So that
In
makes sense.
doing
It shoots
so,
lasers.
it meant that bugs were hired to mine these purple gems with the help of Glimbacks and Shardamites to help them transport the heavy loads. For those who followed the Pilgrim's Way through the verdant wilds of Greenpath and the Fungal Wastes, they would reach the heart of the kingdom, Hallownest's capital city. A place in which they were promised to share in the city's glory. Their wishes would be granted and their truths revealed. During Hallownest's golden age, this city went by one name, but it has been lost to time.
Oh, what's the name?
Due to many
Ah,
of
lost
the
to time.
events
That
to
makes
come,
sense.
it would later become known as the City of Tears. The heart of Hallownest was huge. The western quarter housed the common bug, and the east housed the more influential, wealthier, and royal. Upon their entrance to the city, the pilgrims would have noticed the
Why do they have
grand
spikes on the roof,
spires
by the
that
way? That's so
darted into
annoying.
the peak of this cavern. The statues of powerful knights, the guardians who protected the civilians, and they would have heard the melodic sounds of
Oh,
Marissa
nice.
the songstress from the pleasure house. The city even had a pretty advanced water structure that ran underground.
Yeah, the
These long
sewers.
waterways dealt with the city's waste, and for the items that fell down into these sewers, they slowly collected together and formed a giant pit of junk. Back within the city,
Man, there sure is a lot of shit though, because the area where the Dung Knight,
understand just what
the
the
Defender
substance
Knight, you
was
know,
capable of, as they used soul totems and
Dung Defender.
containers to store it, just as the lost ancient civilization had done ages before. In the highest spire of the city, Lurian the Watcher observed the entire
Yep,
city
it
with
is.
his telescope. He was one of the most loyal to his king, and as a high-ranking member
Yeah, I've been wondering
of the
what that
kingdom,
telescope was
he
about.
was even granted Watcher Knights to protect him in his role. As the capital of Hallownest, various materials were imported in from the surrounding regions. Some of many were silks, artwork, and fabrics. While so many resources came in, only few were sent out. This kingdom thrived on their currency of geo, adventure, and many even traded in charms.
I wonder what geo
Powerful
is,
accessories
you know?
that contained a
Like,
spark
is it
of power
rocks?
woven into their very cores. They offered those who wore them the ability to change how they interacted with the world, enhance strength, the potential to manipulate soul at will, to enhance and extend their lives, and protection were just some of many adaptations.
Geo.
Charms were highly
Like,
sought
that's
after,
the
but
currency
were
in
very
Hollow Knight.
limited. Each
Also,
one
hey
was
Muriel, how's your day?
unique. There may have been many ways to craft these items, but the darkest secret of the kingdom was that they formed from a dying wish. The Pale King's actions had formed a large civilization that spanned for miles and miles through several territories and biomes.
Ah, that's unfortunate. We had an earthquake earlier. Yeah, so yeah, that happened.
Yet he spent the most of his time in the White Palace to offer their worship to him. The citizens of Hallownest fashioned king's idols so that they could physically thank and revere him.
It's
even if
it's a nothing burger. It's fine.
distance. The king's knights were also given ornate seals as symbols of their service to the kingdom. Every bug had a role in this melting pot of culture. While the grubs could tunnel through the caverns as they awaited metamorphosis, not every citizen had this ability. To navigate
So
the
are
kingdom,
grubs the tunnel
citizens of
digger?
Hallownest could have travelled by foot through Kingdom's Way, and a lot did. The king did, however, implement other forms of travel. Hallownest
Alright,
was
thanks,
home
Muriel.
to the stag beetle. These large
Ah.
bugs love to run, and with Hallownest as their home, they ran through the
I wonder if that one mysterious egg on the stag nest, you know, I wonder if that's old the old stag beetle who's carrying us, you know, since he's the last one. I just wondering.
long, empty tunnels of the land. To give the stags a role in the kingdom, stag stations were opened up across the land. In essence, if a bug required transportation to the other end of Hallownest, they simply rang a bell and a stag would be there.
Sorry about that. I'm choking on my own saliva. I gotta get some water. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was a joke. Now I drank some warm water. So, soothing. Anyway, let's continue playing the video.
These stations opened up the kingdom even more. From Dirtmouth, Greenpath, the Fog Canyon, the capital city, and even Deepnest, the stags of Hallownest navigated
I guess the
long
Deepness still
tunnels
traded
for
with the
citizens.
Hollowness, right?
A station was also constructed in Queen's Gardens. However, only few were permitted to utilize this path. The stags loved their role in Hallownest, and after a long day of work, they returned to the stag nest, their home and place of birth. It was here that they swapped stories about interesting passengers, spoke of new tunnels they had discovered, and raised their young. The stag stations were immensely important. Even still, the king also implemented another system to traverse Hallownest. A tram system. In their construction of the tram,
Let's
the
go. We
tracks
love the
ran
train.
from the resting grounds, the crossroads,
The stag beetle
Kingdom's
is mad
Edge,
about
and
this
the
one
basin
though.
close to where the White Palace had
Can't
been
escape
constructed.
mechanization,
The
dude.
workers did also attempt to manufacture a line that ran through Deepnest, but the spider tribe killed anyone who stepped on their land. As a result, the construction of this line was abandoned. With a dream to craft the perfect nail and nails for the land's fighters, a nailsmith set up a workshop just outside of the capital city.
Nice.
Even in a mostly safe kingdom like Hallownest, there were still dangers. To create this perfect weapon, the smith sought out
Yeah, I didn't kill the
pale
guy. I
ore,
just left him
a
to
rare ore connected somehow
do
to
his
the higher
emo
pale
aura
beings
farm
of
on the
the
cliff.
land.
I don't know where he went.
With their weapons, warriors came to the ultimate nail
Hey
master
yo, it's the
shrine
nail
for
master
training in the
shopkeeper
art of
guy.
combat. Oro, Amato, and Shio were just 3 known students. The Fog Canyon became home to one of Hallownest's greatest minds, Monomon the Teacher. In this region, thick with fog and cackling electricity, this large jellyfish had her archive constructed. It was here that she researched the land, its inhabitants, and stored the kingdom's knowledge. As a teacher, she also offered her knowledge to her students, one of which was Quirrell. This golden age of Hallownest truly offered a place for every bug, creature, and traveler. It was
Hmm.
because of the culture and traditions the Pale King had perfectly crafted that the 5 great knights of Hallownest were
Oh, they look so
revered.
peaceful.
Zemur had travelled from a land serene and brought with her the delicate flower. Immensely fragile
All I remember
flowers
from
that
this character is
contain a power
why?
that even now few
Why?
understand. Isma was regarded as
Oh,
a
that's what
kind
Isma looks
warrior
like.
and had some connection to the acid lakes of Hallownest. Although unconfirmed, this suggests that she could have had some sort of connection to Un. Hegemol was the largest of the Great Five and was known to make his friends laugh. Dryer was the fiercest of the warriors, and then there was Ogrim, the knight who took his oath to the kingdom the most seriously. While the kingdom thrived just outside of the borders, the tribe of Deepnest suffered a great loss. The ruler died, and
Oh
control of
no.
Deepnest was left to their partner.
Yeah, we almost got scammed
While
inside
only a
there.
common beast, the weavers and
Oh, someone told me
spiders
that's
of
Hornet's
Deepnest
mom.
still regarded her as their queen, and under her rule, they attempted to move
Oh,
on
I
from
think about it. You know,
the loss.
that big head has
Under the
similar outfit
worship
as
and the
Hornet.
leadership of the Pale King, a barren cavern of simple bugs had transformed into a grand civilization with doctors, adventurers, singers, poets, traders, and so many more. Over these ages, the king's guiding light had helped them thrive, but his influence had also extinguished another. The Moth tribe had initially turned their backs on their creator upon the arrival of the worm, and over this time, they had forgotten her. The Radiants, however, would not
Damn, what a jealous
forgotten.
god.
The ancient light of the Radiants had been forgotten by the Moths of Hallownest in an attempt to make them and the rest of the population of the kingdom remember her. The Radiants entered their dreams. As they slept, the citizens dreamt of a burning light, and she appeared to them. This light threatened to break their minds as it pulled the first victims into a deep slumber. When they awoke, they became feral and aggressive as they reverted back to the simple minds of their ancestors.
Ah, so that's
before
the
arrival and
radiant
gift
corruption.
of sapience from the king. That was if they accepted the call of union she offered in these dreams. The majority
fucking
of
sun!
Hallownest dreamt of this forgotten light, and the king urged his people to resist the forgotten light that plagued their dreams. As a result of these desperate attempts to be remembered, and the king's orders to ignore and reject her, these dreams and the light manifested into an infection. Over his time in Hallownest, the Pale King had explored the void and understood that the Radiants threatened to destroy everything he had formed. He had to act. Interestingly enough, within Mantis Village, the Mantis were naturally immune to her call. The Radiants existed solely within the Dream Realm. So
I wonder why the
Pale
Mantis out.
King
Is it
and
because they're
White Lady
strong-willed?
formed a plan to completely remove her connection to the waking world. The madness of the infection spread across the entire kingdom of Hallownest as the population declined quickly. To seal the Radiance and her influence away mentally and physically, the king turned to the void, only an entity, a vessel with no mind to think, no will to break, and no voice to cry, born of God and void, could hold the Radiance. The Pale King had created several void constructs to protect and maintain the kingdom over the ages.
So that was a
This one
void.
would just be harder to perfect. In a union of worm and root, the Pale King and White Lady had many children.
Yep.
Each one was
Evidently, with
birthed
all
in
the skulls
abyss,
all over the
where
area.
They died,
Damn,
were
they
hollowed out,
fucked.
and then inhabited.
I
by
mean, they're
voids.
insects, right? They should
The
like
king and queen murdered
lay
what appeared to be
1,000 eggs or
thousands of
something.
their children in an attempt to create a pure vessel that could contain the Radiance. To the king, no cost was too great to save his kingdom from the infection. The void shades of the abandoned children were left at the bottom of the abyss as
I
the
guess
king
the
sought
lore
out
of
not one perfect.
the lore of the siblings, you know, the shades, kind of reminds me of the Filipino lore of Chanak. They're the ghost of aborted children.
Vessel, and when the pure vessel eventually revealed itself, the king left the abyss with it and sealed the entrance behind him.
So why did
His
that one
discarded
grow big?
children were simply left down there. The creation of this pure vessel had come at a great cost, but it was important to save the kingdom. The vessel, however, was just one part of the containment of the Radiance. As the king brought the pure vessel to the White Palace to raise it for its purpose, the king began the second stage of the plan. The pure vessel, when grown, would be sealed within the Temple of the Black Egg, but powerful seals had to be formed to keep it closed, to trap it inside. Seals that only 3 powerful dreamers would form if they entered an eternal sleep. Lurien the Watcher volunteered for this role out of loyalty to his king, and Monoman the Teacher of
These are
Fog
the
Canyon
faces
also
on the seal, right?
accepted this great responsibility. For the third and final seal, the Pale King reached out to Hera the Beast of Deepnest.
Surprised that they
Although her tribe
cooperated.
had refused to become a part of Hallownest, the Radiance infection had also affected
Okay, that makes
them.
sense now. Yeah,
Even so,
they gotta
Hera
stop it.
had a request. Hera had lost her partner, but she desperately
And that's how
wanted her
Hornet came to
child.
be.
In a union between tribes, the Pale King gave Hera the Beast what she desired. Together, they created
That
child
means
of
they
God
fucked.
and the Beast. As Deepnest awaited the birth of their queen's spawn, the Pale King returned to the White Palace and spent time with the vessel, his child. Over this time, the vessel was seen by the population of Hallownest as their savior that would seal away the Radiance, their Hollow Knight. Soon, the time came and the Hollow Knight was brought to the Temple of the Black Egg, and it was chained within. In a ritual, the Radiance was summoned to the Knight's dream, and as it had no will, no mind, and no suffering, the light was trapped within. Across Hallownest, the Dreamers prepared to complete their role in this plan. Monoman the Teacher stored herself within her archives.
So
As a dreamer,
what do the
power
dreamer do?
of this ritual already protected her to an extent. However, she also put in place another level of security. The teacher formed a connection between her mask and the container she would be placed in to dream. If someone or something did attempt to access her physical form, they would require her mask. A mask
Ooh,
that she
that's
gave to her
Squirrel on his
apprentice, Quirrell. To protect his teacher, Quirrell left Hallownest with the mask, and as he moved further away from the king's beacon, his memories of this
Your memory
kingdom
disappears the more you are far away
away.
from Hallownest.
Within the capital city, at the peak of the Watcher's Spire, Lurien the Watcher lay down and slept as his Watcher Knights protected the entrance to his body. Over in Deepnest, Hera the Beast and the Spider Tribe were overjoyed with the birth of their princess, Hornet.
Let's go,
Hera
Silk
was
Song!
only able to spend a small amount of time with her child before she had to enter the Beast Den to also go to sleep. As the 3 dreamers went to sleep,
So what do
they
the dreamers
entered the
do?
dream
Did
realm
they help
and became
seal, I
seals
guess?
on the Temple of the Black Egg. With the Radiance sealed away, trapped within the Hollow Knight inside the Black Egg Temple, sealed by the Dreamers, the kingdom breathed a sigh of relief. Many of the bugs went to the temple to pray, and a memorial fountain was constructed inside of the walls of the capital city. A structure to remind them of the great sacrifice that not only the
Oh,
Hollow
those
Knight had
are
made,
the dreamers
but
around the
also
statue, and that makes
the
sense.
Dreamers. The creation of the Hollow Knight and sacrifice of the Dreamers to save the kingdom weighed heavily on the White Lady. It was her children that had been discarded in the abyss to find that one pure
You're a
vessel.
bad mom.
She felt shame for her role in
Yeah, you
this
sloot.
plan.
You're such a
To
sloot.
stop herself from the creation of future offspring, the White Lady traveled to the Queen's gardens. With her powers of roots,
What, she's
she
into
bound herself
BDSM
to
now?
the ground. Unable to defend herself, Drya of the Great 5 Knights of Hallownest took an oath to stand watch of her queen and protect her from any harm.
Well, he's dead when I
Despite
came.
everything the Pale King and the Dreamers had done to save the kingdom, even after the sacrifice of the Hollow Knight, the Radiants once again appeared in the dreams of the bugs of Hallownest. The vessel had been pure upon its selection by the king. However, during its time in the White Palace, it had forged a connection with its father. An idea had been instilled, it had a mind, thoughts, and it had become impure. The order of the events during this period are murky. Regardless, none of them were good. The Mosskin of Green...
It seems like the Pale King's downfall was his own, like, love for his children, I suppose.
Path were mostly
Did
unaffected
he?
by the
Love?
infection,
The
but
Hollow Knight?
this aggressive attack on the kingdom did amplify their desire to be reunited with Un. The miners in Crystal Peak fell. Some even merged with the crystals they mined and became mad and aggressive.
So that
The
has nothing
mushroom
to do with the
tribe of
Radiance?
The fungal wastes that had once allowed pilgrims to traverse their land also became actively hostile against most they encountered. Alongside this, several spoke of a master herald that would signal age's end. A rumored deity that had its own mind outside of the hive mind they shared. A mushroom that
Oh,
went by the
Mr.
name
Mushroom.
Mr. Mushroom.
Original
Reports
name.
showed
Yeah.
that he traveled across Hallownest unhindered by the infection. As the death toll increased,
He looks so ridiculous,
the
though.
kingdom attempted to reduce the spread. The Spirit's Glade was sealed, and the capital city of Hallownest closed its gates so that no one could enter and no one could leave. The tram and stag
Damn, they got the
stations were shut
COVIDs.
down. In doing this, the stags slowly fell into isolation. Without a bell to be heard to signal them, they were also forgotten about. Because of this, every region within Hallownest became isolated. The rock base of the cavern above the capital city cracked, and with it, the waters of the cavern of Blue Lake dripped from above. This gave the capital city the name it would be remembered for, the City of Tears. Although the gates had been closed, the Radiant still wiped out large chunks of the population within. As for their history and records, the parchments of spider silk became ineligible. In these dire times,
They should have
there were
digitized
some
it,
who
just like
still had
Monomon.
hope. The Soul Master of the Soul Sanctum saw in his dreams that the cure for this infection could be attained through pure focus, an ability granted through the consumption and manipulation of soul.
I mean, if you think about it, like the Mantises have pure focus, focusing murderous focus, but they have focus, right? They did.
This dream, however, was a nasty trick by the Radiance. The Pale King ordered that this line of thought be abandoned, but the Soul Master could not understand why his leader refused to at least try to stop the Moth of Light. This Master of Soul believed that if they could use the substance that animated their very bodies, it would help them defeat the infection. So he ignored the Pale King. Within the Soul Sanctum, the Soul Master and his scholars hoarded the soul totems of the kingdom.
It really bothers me that, you know, this thing kind of reminds me of the penis worm and Fate.
Soul Sanctum. The Soul Master and his scholars hoarded the soul totems of the kingdom and slowly became intoxicated by its power. The intensity of this substance deformed many of them as it mutated their body into mistakes. The Soul Master, however, did retain his shape and he stayed in the Soul Sanctum. Close by,
He eventually got
one member of
corrupted
the
though,
upper
right?
class of the city watched as the population was driven into madness. Emelita had been cast out by those she had once called friends, and she reveled in their madness. She locked herself in a tower and watched the chaos unfold. Emelita enjoyed the show. The madness of the infection simply evaded her.
Ow.
Over in the Mantis village, their natural immunity allowed them to ride out the initial infection as they dealt with other issues. The daughter of one of their leaders had entered into a relationship with an outsider. This
Oh.
was not just any outsider, it was Zamer of the Great Five Knights of Hallownest. The Mantis leaders ordered that this relationship be put to an end, but it did not stop the connection they had for each other. This natural immunity to the Radiance, for the most part, was fantastic for the Mantis.
Yeah, the Mantis
tribe.
Lord
There
wanted to be
were some,
infected.
however, who believed if they chose to worship her light, they would be gifted with power. Unfortunately
Power
for the
demands
Mantis, one of their
sacrifice.
4 leaders fell to this lure. Branded the traitor lord, this leader turned on his sisters. In response, the sisters forced those who had fallen for the Radiance's light out of Mantis village. Without a home, the Mantis traitors claimed a new territory within Queen's Gardens, an act of aggression not only against but also the White Lady. These traitors did attempt to dominate this land, but they were met by the power of Dryer.
Yep,
Ultimately,
you can see them, a
she
bunch
fell
of
to the constant waves of Mantis attacks in defense of her queen, but the traitors also fell to the infection as they became simple-minded creatures. Although Dryer had given her life for the White Lady, this higher being of root had grown so much since she had settled on this land. She was completely unaware that her protector had fallen. Interestingly enough,
Damn.
even some of the Mosskin turned their backs on and actively chose to worship the Radiance. The Moss Prophet and their followers believed Hallownest would be born again and united in the Radiance's blazing image. To worship her, they called out to the Moth in
Yeah, I've been wondering
Moss
about that one. Like, I thought that was going to be a
Hallownest had
boss.
fallen so far in such a short amount of time. The streets filled with bodies, many bugs reverted to a mind without sapience, and the regions of this kingdom separated. The Pale King's vision for a grand civilization had failed. Within the hive, the bees had lived independently away from the kingdom of Hallownest.
How is
but
the hive
their
underground?
queen
What the
grew
fuck?
too large for the hive and died. They too fell to the lure of the Radiance after the infection seeped into their home and took over. In an action that surprised a few that still lived, the Pale King pulled the White Palace from the physical realm and transported it into the Dream Realm along with his followers and
Yeah, good source of
servants.
souls. We
In
just
these
attack
awful
them.
times, the Traitor Lord's daughter died and was buried in Queen's Gardens. Upon no notification of this news, her partner, Zamer, chose to renounce her duties as a Great Knight, entered the resting grounds, and became the Grey Morning.
Why?
Within the royal waterways, Isma entered a grove. Inside, she passed away to unknown means. Just outside, Ogrim defended her grove and waited for her. As for the 5th and final Great Knight of Hallownest, Hegamol, his fate is unknown.
But his armor was
His
taken,
armor
right?
was stolen as he slept by a maggot desperate to defend its kin. After that, no one knows.
There's still
During
the
this
Dung
entire
Defender.
period, deep down in the abyss, some of the discarded vessels managed to climb out of their tomb. The king had sealed the entrance to this place, but they discovered a secret way out.
Oh?
With access to the kingdom, some stayed to explore it, while one left it entirely.
Ah,
With the king
the main character,
gone
is
and
it?
the kingdom having entered a stasis to keep it eternal, and the majority of the inhabitants of the kingdom having fallen to the plague of the Radiance, Hallownest fell into ruin. Her influence had taken their minds, but still, the physical infection stayed inside of the Black Egg Temple. In Deep Nest, Hornet was raised by the weavers and midwife in her mother's absence. She knew her mother had sacrificed herself for Deep Nest, and as she grew up, Hornet explored Hollow Nest and protected the ruins from scavengers. While the stags slowly died out as they waited for a bell to be rung to signal the return of the passengers, there were some who survived the infection. The nailsmith who had set up his workshop just outside of the City of Tears had, in a way, attained a sort of pure focus as he spent his attention on the forging of a pure nail.
Yep. Pure focus. Just like the mantises. Pure murderous focus. This one's pure what's the word for it? Artisan focus? Is that a word?
A goal he would continue to attempt. The ultimate nailmaster Sly hung up his nail and set up a store in Dirtmouth. He realized that the collection of gear was more important than combat. To get more of it, he sold the treasures and charms of the fallen kingdom to those who passed by. His students also moved across Hollow Nest. Oro relocated to Kingdom's Edge, Matto moved to the Howling Cliffs, and Shio made Greenpath his home. And
wait, I don't think I met Shio, did I? Oh wait, he's the Beyblade?
For the few who remained of the Moth tribe, they prophesied someone that would wield
he's not a Beyblade.
and collect all of the essence and memories of
Wait,
Hollow
there's
Nest.
the Dash, right? He's the Dash.
Yet this chosen one never arrived, and the tribe slowly died off until only a single seer remained to tend to the resting grounds alone. The King's Pass had once allowed those who traveled through the Howling Cliffs access to Dirtmouth and the Greater Kingdom. Over time and without maintenance, the connecting bridge collapsed. Dirtmouth slowly faded away as the residents within and the few who passed through entered the well into the forgotten crossroads of the kingdom below. They sought wealth, glory, and adventure, but only few returned. The city
I'm surprised
of
Zoti
Tears
survived.
had become a shell of its former self, but it was not completely dead. The Tower
I guess
of
he got
Love
the-
was home to something interesting. A void being named the Collector. The origin
I guess Zoti has like a pure focus of narcissism and delusions.
of this entity is shrouded mostly in mystery. Why was it called the Collector? Well, it collected objects and, most notably, the grubs of Hollow Nest and placed them inside of glass jars to preserve or protect them. On a more interesting note, the key to its home in the Tower of Love was later discovered on the body of a bug that had died. This was not a normal death. It appeared that Void had destroyed this bug from the inside as streams of the substance fell like tears from its face. In the bug's dying moments, it had thought, too long spent together, we become as one.
So what does that mean?
The Void entity and the bug had some sort of relationship, but what it truly meant is unknown. Deep underground in the abyss, the Void called out to the Lightkeeper appointed by the Pale King.
But he dead.
It called to him to turn off the lights. Within the White Palace, the Pale King also passed away. It is unknown how this occurred, but his followers inside this dream realm still awaited his return. Hollow Nest was home to a long history of chaos and ruin. This fallen kingdom, however, was just one of many. The population of the Land of Storms had once worshipped the gods of thunder and the gods of rain.
Land of Storms? What the hell is
Gods
this?
had either abandoned them or died.
I don't remember Land of Storms.
They sought out the gods and they went out into the wasteland.
Hey, that's a God Seeker.
More. The Godseekers had a mask that allowed them to focus their thoughts. In doing so, they created an entire world with the shared mind in the dream realm, Godhome. Inside, they hoped to elevate and eventually attune their minds to commune with the gods of the world with a Godseeker device through ritual combats. On their journey, a Godseeker picked up what lingered.
Why is the crystal laser boy
and it
Part of
arrived
the
in
god pantheon,
Hallownest,
though.
unaware that he had moved on. However, upon the Godseeker's
It's the
arrival,
shittiest
it was
boss
tucked
of them
inside of
all.
a cocoon and dropped into the junk pit of the royal waterways. How and why this happened is unknown. Yet, while trapped physically, the Godseekers lived comfortably within Godhome. The Kingdom of Hallownest had essentially become a giant graveyard. Spirits of warriors waited for explorers to pass by them, yet some parts of the kingdom were alive. The strongest fighters across the land traveled towards Hallownest to compete in the Colosseum of Fools. Every one of them attempted to become the champion of the Colosseum. Despite their dreams of greatness, many died during their trials, and their corpses were dropped into the chasm
Oh, so
below.
that's what that
Even
was about.
after the Lord Fool's death, the fighting continued. As the ages passed,
Wait.
the Lord Fool's
Yeah, he had like stream of void tears there. What's that about?
death, the fighting continued. As the ages passed, many who dreamt of greatness took on the God Tamer. Two new fighters were Tiso and the Little Fool. In the fading town of Dirtmouth, the retired Nailmaster Sly fell into a dream and began to wander the forgotten crossroads.
Yeah,
a
we found
world
him
he
in
had
there.
left behind long before.
He was
This
almost
was
infected by the
interesting.
radiance, right?
It was as if something deep within Hallownest had brought it back to life, and with it, new travelers made their way towards the kingdom. The oldest resident of the town, Elderbug, had grown up in an age after the closure of the stag stations and fall of the world below. Still, he knew of the dangers in the well, dangers that had claimed so many that had entered and never returned. Within the City of Tears, a relic collector set up a store away from the dead. Lem was fascinated by the historical artifacts of Hallownest during its golden age. He was also intrigued by the arcane eggs of the civilization that had occupied the land before the kingdom of Hallownest had even formed. As Hornet traversed across this fallen kingdom to protect her mother
Silk
and
Song.
father's ruins from scavengers, she also sensed something in the air. A new wave of the infection that reanimated the bodies of the fallen into aggressive
I guess they're like
husks.
bug zombies now.
Hornet was mostly alone after the Weavers of Deepnest left Hallownest to return to their homeland, after they also sensed the return of the infection. From the Howling Cliffs to the Black Egg Temple to the cast-off shell of the Pale King's original worm form at the kingdom's edge, Hornet watched as the kingdom was filled with dangers. These bugs simply wandered the region in which they had passed away. They retained their muscle memory of their roles during the kingdom's heyday, but the infection also clouded their minds and made
Even
them
the jellyfish?
aggressive upon even a simple interaction. The miners of Crystal Peak
No,
mined,
what's
the
I forgot her
guards
name?
protected the
Mila?
streets, and husks wandered the forgotten
Mila got
crossroads,
infected, so
all
sad.
in the Radiance's haze. Still, those of sound mind and new arrivals delved into these ruins as the infection brought it back to life. In a deserted village, there was one Menderbug who had survived the entire infection, and he
Oh?
kept working.
Who's this?
When he discovered a broken
Wait, I
sign,
don't remember
he
this guy.
fixed it. As he worked, he wrote of his accomplishments in his diary. To the east of his village, another bug ran a charm store. Salubra appeared to be
Yeah, what the hell is
completely unaware
Salubra?
that the kingdom had fallen. She thought maybe business had just gotten a little quiet lately. Amongst
Also,
those
your shop is
souls
in a cliff,
grew,
man. It's hard to get
Zote
there.
the Mighty arrived in Hallownest. This place reminded him of home. Zote believed
Hey mate, I really love your stream today. Enjoy being part of it. Fuck off, bot.
names had power. That was why he had called his nail the Life Ender. Yet, Zote's image of himself as a mighty warrior was not the case.
So
He
he-
struggled against the most basic of foes as he wandered the
Yeah, how
castles
did he
alone.
not? How did
A
he
married
not become
couple,
infected?
Cornifer and his wife, Iselda,
Also, is he a sibling?
arrived in Hallownest. Cornifer
Wait.
wanted to explore the world.
Wait, let's-
Yet, Zod's image of himself as a mighty warrior was not the case. He sought glory of home. Zod believed names had power. That was why he had called his name Mighty Warrior was near the caverns
Okay.
alone. A married
No mention if
couple,
he's part
Cornifer
of the
and his wife,
children.
Zelda, also arrived in Hallownest. Cornifer wanted to explore the world, and he did as he took on the task to map the kingdom, as his wife set up a store in Dirtmouth. Within Fog Canyon, an explorer also discovered a great way to earn Geo from the passing.
Let's go, we love Geo.
Millabelle knew bugs and how to manipulate them. In the safer region of the infected jellyfish.
Oh, wait, she stole my money? I thought she was close.
Hallownest. Millabelle set up a bank to store the Geo of those who wanted to protect their wealth.
Oh, I guess my 4,500 is gone forever.
What it seemed. Millabelle planned to run away with all the Geo she managed.
Oh, that's
to
where
extract
we're
from
supposed to
her
find her.
box.
Ah,
In
cool.
the neighboring region of
Let her have
Thunder
our money.
Beasts,
We're done with
Leg-Eater
the first
either
game.
lived there or moved there to set up his own charm store. Leg-Eater was blind but had an amazing sense of smell. He believed that if he earned enough Geo, he would become a king. It was here the bug
Let's
created
go,
charms,
money.
but how he did this is unknown. On a quest of bravery, a cicada warrior sought to challenge Hallownest's mighty, terrifying beasts. Cloth had
Oh, you're a
the
cicada.
best intention
Cicada.
to die in an intense, climactic battle with her club so that she could be reunited with Nola, her partner who had passed away. But the creatures of Hallownest scared her, and sometimes she hid. Hallownest was alive once again with new adventurers, explorers, and the husks of the departed. Within the Temple of the Black Egg, the Hollow Knight grew weaker and the Radiance's influence on the land grew stronger. Hallownest, however, was still protected by the seal of the Dreamers. Many of the vessels that had escaped their fate at the bottom of the abyss had explored the ruins of Hallownest. Many had been lured and brutally killed by the terrifying, shape-shifting Nosk of Deepnest. There was also another vessel who had returned to Hallownest after it had heard a call. As of now, it is unknown what called it, the Radiance or the
Oh yeah, the main
Hollows.
character.
Regardless, this vessel, the Knight, traversed King's Pass and arrived in Dirtmouth. It met Elderbug and was told of the Grand Kingdom below, a kingdom that had become a myth. On its path, the Knight encountered Cornifer as he mapped out the Forgotten Crossroads.
Yeah, we're basically running
The
through
false
the game
knight
now.
that wore Hegemor's armor. After it met a snail shaman, it learned how to focus soul into powerful magical strikes. It even reopened a stag station and discovered what remained of this species that had once allowed Hallownest to thrive.
Still no explanation in the last
Sadly,
egg in
this
the...
stag was the
nest?
last of its kind, and over all of these years alone, it had forgotten the location of the stag nest. With its first passenger in ages, it asked the Knight to reopen more stations as it travelled across Hallownest and ring the bell in each so that it would hopefully remember the location of its home. Hornet knew of the sacrifice the Dreamers had made. She also watched from afar as this vessel explored her kingdom. On a trip to the Howling Cliffs, Hornet encountered Quirrell.
Quirrell?
He too
Oh, is
had
that the
felt
comic?
call of Hallownest in his dreams. Dreams of winding roads, misted caverns, drowning cities, and a door with something that called to him just beyond. Hornet saw Quirrell as just another explorer that had come to desecrate her kingdom. In a short battle, Hornet noticed that the mask Quirrell wore was important. Something had called him here. With the belief his journey into Hallownest was significant, the warrior of
Damn,
Deepnest
she...
returned to her kingdom to watch over the night.
Did she literally just pull up and attack Quirrell, then run away?
Or, as she called it, Little Ghost. In Green Path, Hornet looked over the body of a dead vessel, but she was interrupted by the Knight. She warned it to come no closer, that she had seen it as it had crept through the undergrowth, and that she knew why it had come to Hallownest. She would not allow it to break the Dreamer's seals. Despite Hornet's amazing ability to wield a needle and thread, the Knight defeated her in combat. As Hornet fled, the Knight picked up the Mothwing cloak from the body of the vessel. This would be just one of the many items and upgrades the vessel would acquire on its path. The Dreamers had watched from the Dream Realm as the plan to save Hallownest had essentially failed. Over these ages, they had watched it fall as explorers had come and gone. However, they were curious about the arrival of this vessel. From their realm, Lurien the Watcher, Monoman the Teacher, and Hera the Beast projected their minds into the physical realm and spoke to the Knight. They asked if it sought to break the seals. Lurien ordered the Knight to stop what it had started and leave them to sleep in peace. Despite their request, the Knight continued on and found its way to a statue of the Dreamers in the resting grounds. To protect the vessel, the Dreamers lay sleeping. Monoman the Teacher in her archive, surrounded by fog and mist. Lurien the Watcher in his spire, looking over the city. Hera the Beast in her den, amidst the deep darkness beyond the kingdom. Through their devotion, Hallownest lasts eternal. It had been through the Pale King's plan that Hallownest had entered a period of stasis. The darkness and stillness of void appeared to perpetuate one long night. The kingdom was still there, but frozen in a state of ruin, eternal. Lurien believed that if the Dreamer's seals were broken, the Radiant's light would bring with it dawn, and with it the complete collapse of Hallownest. Lurien wanted Hallownest to remain as it was. He was loyal to his king, and his king wanted Hallownest to last eternal. The Dreamers also did know that the Hollow Knight had grown so much weaker over this long period. Various binding seals had been crafted inside the egg, but they would not be strong enough to stop the radiance. Lurien had to keep the Dreamers' seals active. To stop the Knight, the Dreamers pulled the vessel from Hallownest into the Dream Realm. It was here that it found itself trapped in a space between body and soul.
Now that I think about it, the Pale King kinda. I just gotta get this thought out since it took me like 40 minutes to process that. So the Pale King story, where it came from a big worm then metamorphized into a small worm, or rather, the Pale King, isn't it kind of similar to some Christians interpretation of Jesus, where Jesus is like the basically like God turned man. eh, I'm not really smart enough to make more words, I just have stray thoughts into that. Yep. Something to think about, although this one failed.
The Dreamers had the
Yeah, the Pale King tried to be the savior of Holness, I guess. I will not really, but yeah, I mean, eventually, but
displayed their ability to manipulate the Dream Realm, but they were not the only ones in Hallownest that knew how to travel between worlds. Within the resting grounds, the last moth of Hallownest discovered the vessel. In her dream form, the seer guided the Knight towards a dream nail. It was with this that it pierced the veil between worlds and returned to Hallownest. This seer had lost so much on her own over all of this time. She had still tended to the graves of the fallen. As she had completed her tasks, the seer felt immense remorse for the crimes of her tribe. They had turned their backs on the radiance that had given them life and light, and it was because of this that she had reacted so aggressively. The seer knew of the dreamers and the sacrifice of the Hollow Knight. She also knew how to help the knight complete its task to break the seals so that change could come to Hallownest. She did also have another agenda. If she could acquire enough essence, she could be one with
Oh.
the Radiance. The Dreamnail had dulled over time, but the essence it needed to be fully restored flowed around everywhere. Within the whispering root trees, the warriors who had passed on, and the bugs. Anything that could dream was a source of essence. It was with this ancient moth artifact that it would be able to enter the dreams of the dreamers and inside destroy them and their seals. Over its journey, the knight explored the many stunning, haunted regions of Hallownest. It helped pull back Sly from the infection of Hallownest in an abandoned village. It also helped Bretta with the same ailment within the fungal wastes. In Crystal Peak, the knight met Myla,
Yeah,
a
Myla's
miner
dead.
who had traveled to the region to search for treasure. Her singing could be heard from the entrance of this cavern. As long as she did not fall asleep, she would be okay. Myla was
Unfortunately,
happy and excited to
nope.
explore the secrets of Crystal Peak. She also invited the knight to visit her again. She liked its company, and she was sure it liked her singing. In the Mantis village, the knight acquired the Mantis Claw and challenged the Mantis Lords to combat. Upon the survival of this deadly conflict, the Lords offered the knight access to Deepnest and the honor and respect to traverse their region without issue. In Deepnest, the knight was lured into the nest of Nosk, a shape-shifting monstrosity that had killed many of the vessel's siblings. The knight, however, was stronger and more fluid than the other vessels as it used
Nosk
its
is an
abilities to
easy boss
kill
once you get
the
used to its
beast.
pattern. I guess that applies to
The
every
infected
boss.
spiders of Deepnest were just as dangerous as the bugs of Hallownest. The knight delved into the dark, claustrophobic, web-covered tunnels of this region and discovered the distant village, a collection of homes made of silk that hung above a deep cavern. Upon its entrance, the vessel survived a trap and then discovered the first dreamer, Hera the Beast, protected by a seal in the beast's den. With the Dreamnail, the knight entered her dream and destroyed her within. The death of Hera the Beast inside of her dream also killed her physical form.
Really?
This action had several effects across Hallownest. Hornet became the new queen of Deepnest after the death of her mother, and the protection
queen
of
of
the
a dead
Temple
kingdom?
of the Black Egg became much weaker after the removal of Hera's seal. The plague inside pushed against the edges of its prison, and the orange goo of the infection broke out into the forgotten crossroads as light seeds transformed the already aggressive corpses of Hallownest into deadly foes. When the knight returned to Crystal Peak, it did not hear the positive hums of Myla. She too, just like many others, had fallen to the infection. In her mind, she was commanded by the Radiant to kill the Empty One. She was a perfect soul driven mad. Further in, the knight fought the fallen and mutated bugs as it acquired the Crystal Heart, an energy core that allowed it to propel itself and fly. As the knight entered the City of Tears, it was met by Hornet at the Fountain Memorial. She had underestimated her half-sibling. It was a resilient born of two gods. She also offered some information. If it still wanted to continue on its journey, it should seek out the Grave
Spider-Man.
Ash. The grave she referred to was that of the Pale King's original form of the worm at Kingdom's Edge. It was there that it was tested by Hornet once again in combat to see if it was strong enough to do what needed to be done to save Hallownest. Inside of the corpse of the worm, the knight acquired the King's brand. It essentially selected the knight as king of Hallownest and access to every region within.
King Brand.
Back in the City of Tears, the knight climbed the Soul Sanctum, fought with the infected scholars inside.
I think I fought this first
and
before
even
I went
defeated
to
the
get
Soul Master. It was
the
in
King
this
Brand.
victory that it learned Desolate Dive, a powerful spell that allowed it to smash through the ground. The knight then climbed the Watcher's Spire, defeated the Watcher Knights, and came across the sleeping body of the second dreamer,
Lurien.
the Watcher. Just as it had done with Hera, the knight entered the dream of this bug, so loyal to his king, and destroyed him. Interestingly enough, this dream realm was a little brighter than that of the last dreamer.
Why?
A sign that the Radiance's influence
Ah.
was getting stronger. A new dawn was on the way.
The fucking
Destroying
sun.
two of the dreamer's seals, the kingdom became more alive than it had been for many, many years. In the basin of Hallownest, the knight fought with a vessel which had been infected by light seeds. Further in, it picked up the monarch wings, wings of ethereal matter that granted the knight the power to jump higher. In the royal waterways,
Yep, Dung Defender.
the little ghost
Ogrim.
discovered Ogrim. He defended the grove Isma had entered and not returned, and in his time alone, he had crafted statues of his friends. With limited material in the sewers of Hallownest, this once white defender had become the Dung Defender, as he had used the vast quantity of the waste of Hallownest in his creations. Further in, the vessel navigated Isma's grove and found her body. The cause of her death is unknown, but she did make a wish. This had created a charm, Isma's Tear, that gave the knight the protection to swim through the acid lakes of Hallownest without harm. Deeper into the royal waterways, the knight encountered Tuck, a scavenger bug who searched for someone she believed had something to a pug who royal waterways. The knight encountered
Yeah, I don't think I've met this one
a
before.
scavenger bug who searched for someone she believed had something to apologize for. Who the person Tuck searched for is unknown. However, it is likely she sought out Boone, another scavenger bug who was sighted close to the Howling Cliffs. Within the abyss, the place it and its kin had been discarded and hollowed out by the void. It was here that it reactivated the lighthouse and calmed the void as it attained the Shade Cloak. A cloak formed of void that offered the knight the power to traverse the void. Over its short time in Hallownest, the knight had grown so much stronger. Within the Howling Cliffs, an acolyte of the Grim Troop had died before it could light the Nightmare Lantern, a powerful device that summoned the troop. Hallownest was exactly what they fed off, a fallen kingdom full of nightmares.
Oh, the Grim Troop goes to Fallen Kingdoms.
The knights discovered the body of this creature and it lit the lantern. In doing so, the Grim Troop traveled from the Nightmare Realm and set up their tents within Dirtmouth. As this had happened, their leader, Grim, sent Grimkin into Hallownest to collect the nightmare essence of the ruined kingdom. Upon the knight's return to Dirtmouth, it entered the tent of the Grim Troop leader and was asked if it wanted to participate in the ritual. Over the following hours, the knight traveled with a Grim child appointed by Grim and fed the nightmare essence harvested by the Grimkin to the Grim child. The troop leader watched as the Grim child grew stronger and stronger. This was important to the survival and the everlasting cycle of the nightmare heart. When the Grim child had absorbed enough nightmare essence, the next stage of this ritual would begin.
Okay, I wasn't able to get beat the Crimson Grim.
Realm. As a result, the Grimchild would feed on the energy, become host to the Nightmare Realm, and then become the new Nightmare King. This was a cycle that had occurred for countless years. The knight, however, had a choice. If it followed through with the ritual, then the Grimchild would absorb the nightmare essence and become the new host of the nightmare realm. If the knight instead destroyed the nightmare lantern in Hallownest, it would force the traveling troupe to leave and seek out another ruined kingdom. In doing this, one of their followers, Brum, would be able to remove the mask that had enslaved him to the Grim troupe. Brum would remember who he was. Nim. With just
What did he say?
one more dreamer
His
to
name
go
Nim
and
with
powerful abilities in its
like
hands, the knight traveled to
like
find
very ominous.
Skyrionn. The
Ominously.
archives of Monoman the Teacher were filled with aggressive jellyfish, but none of them were as dangerous as a beast Monoman had charged to protect her chamber. Umu. The issue was that Umu had also twisted to the corruption. To the knight's luck, Quirrell also returned to the archives after he had explored Hallownest in an attempt to remember this kingdom. Quirrell weakened the beast as the knight struck it. As they approached Monoman, Quirrell revealed the teacher's mask and removed the additional layer of protection. Inside of the dream realm of Monoman, the knight noticed just how bright the realm had become. The radiance had become so much stronger since the death of the other two dreamers. Monoman knew what the knight sought to do and welcomed it. Its actions going forward to hopefully save the kingdom. The death of the final dreamer removed the protection of the Temple of the Black Egg, and with it, only the Hollow Knight remained. Quirrell had served Monoman for so long, and as the long night came to an end and the Radiance prepared to unleash her light to create dawn, Quirrell felt himself age. The stasis of Hallownest was over. Quirrell had
dawn
comes.
Since
it had returned to Hallownest, where the water that rained upon the City of Tears came from. As he explored, he discovered a blue lake in the cavern above the city, and he felt at peace. It was here that he dug his nail into the ground and left. After this, he did pass away.
Where?
How he did is unknown. During its time in Hallownest, the night had changed so much. It had given the nailsmith close to the City of Tears enough pale ore to craft the pure nail, his life's achievement. Having completed this goal, the nailsmith asked that it strike him down. If the knight refused to do so, the nailsmith was free to pursue something else. Speaking of Shio, the knight also learned nail arts from Shio, Matto, and Oro to help it in its journey. The vessel had opened up enough stag stations across Hallownest for the last stag to remember the location of its nest. In a bittersweet moment, the last stag discovered the remains of those he had once traveled with. He was the last one here, but he also sensed that others just like him had journeyed out into other lands. With what appeared
that egg. I was wondering what that was.
The old stag had hope for his kind. With the amount of essence it had collected on its journey, the knight even pushed the dream nail to its full potential and woke it up. This collection of 2,400 essence was more than enough for the seer to truly repent for her and her tribe's crimes against the Radiance. In a moment of true remorse, the seer exploded into essence and became one with the Radiance.
Did that help though?
An entity without a mind to think and no voice to cry suffering, it had changed Hallownest. It even angered Zote the Mighty as it rescued him from several compromising situations. Situations that Zote believed he could have survived without the help. Having destroyed the seals and helped whoever it had encountered in Hallownest, the knight had several options on what to do next. Each thread it traversed would have a very different effect.
Okay, we're gonna talk about the endings now.
Story would come to an end.
Oh, there we go.
Having destroyed the Dreamer's seals of Hallownest, the knight traversed the now heavily infested Forgotten Crossroads. Then it entered the Black Egg Temple. It was here that the knight freed the Hollow Knight from the chains of this prison and a fight began. The Hollow Knight was plagued by the infection of the Radiance and it was in pain. With every ability, spell, nail art and nail upgrade this little ghost had discovered on its journey through Hallownest, it fought with and defeated the Hollow Knight. As the infection flowed out of the Hollow Knight, the knight focused on it and absorbed it into itself. It became the new vessel of the Radiance, and with it was chained and then sealed inside of the Black Egg Temple. It had become exactly what the Pale King had wanted, a pure vessel, the new Hollow Knight, trapped inside forever. No mind to think, no will to break, and no
I guess
voice to cry suffering.
unless he made friends here.
Hallownest eternal. The knight had made so many changes to Hallownest during its exploration of the ruined kingdom. However, it had one more region of this realm to discover. On a path through Queen's Gardens, the knight fought the infected traitor lords. If the knight had helped Cloth earlier on their journey, they would have been helped by her. Unfortunately, or fortunately in the case of Cloth, she was mortally wounded but still landed the final blow on the creature. Cloth quickly succumbed to her injuries and died as a result of a great battle, just like she had wanted, finally reunited with Nola. Deeper into this brutal yet luscious region, the knight found the body of Dryer just outside of an entrance to the White Lady's grove. Inside, the White Lady spoke to her child. She had felt the weakening of the Hollow Knight over these ages and believed she could somehow help her spawn. At first, she asked that it take the place of the Hollow Knight and then offered it a fragment of the King's Soul Charm, her part in the union between herself and the Pale King. For the second fragment of the King's Soul Charm, the knight traveled to the ancient basin and location of the missing White Palace. Having awoken the dream nail with so much essence, the knight entered a dream realm within a fallen king's mold. Within, the knight found itself in the White Palace.
Well,
the royal retainers
spikes,
here
thorns,
were
and
unaware that the
freaking
king had
buzzsaws
fallen.
for no
They
reason.
waited for his return. These were the lucky few who had survived the onslaught and infection of the Radiance. As the knight climbed this holy place and evaded its dangers, it discovered the body of its father on his throne. The Pale King held the other part of the King's Soul Charm in his hand. Both parts of the charm slammed together and formed back into the King's Soul. With it, the knight followed the charm's guidance into the abyss. Right at the bottom, surrounded by the countless bodies of its siblings, the knight discovered a new pathway that the King's Soul had opened up for it. It was in this place that the vessel entered the birthplace, where it had been born, where it had died, and then began its journey. The little ghost avoided the strikes of the shades who lingered in this place and came across a shiny black egg that offered a reflection of this poor, unfortunate creature. Upon a strike with the dream nail, the knight had a vision of the past. How it had climbed its way out of the abyss just as the Pale King had chosen a vessel as the Hollow Knight. How it had fallen into a death pit below. This vision showed it what it was, that these shades were its siblings, and that it was essentially a failed experiment created to save a kingdom. Having learned the truth, the King's Soul was engulfed with void and transformed into the Void Heart, a charm that unified the void under the knight's will. As the knight traveled to the temple of the Black Egg, it was greeted by
Just looking
Hornet.
through
She explained that
Hollow
she
Knight
would
lore.
not join it inside as the structure had been built to sustain vessels. If she were to enter, the bindings inside would drain her. She stated that while she would not risk her own life in the initial battle against the Hollow Knight, she would aid her sibling if the moment presented itself. Just as Hornet had promised, during the battle between the Knight and the Hollow Knight, she jumped in just as the Radiance-infected vessel fell weak, and she retained it so that the Knight could finish it off. During this struggle, the Hollow Knight knocked Hornet down and she fell unconscious. In these moments, the Knight defeated the Hollow Knight and it focused and absorbed everything that the Hollow Knight was and became the new vessel. Just as quickly as this had occurred, the Knight was chained within and the Temple of the Black Egg was sealed with Hornet as a dreamer, trapped inside with the Knights. Hornet had become an unwilling dreamer as her sibling had followed through with the ultimate plan of the Pale King.
Rest in peace, Silksong.
In that critical moment in which Hornet held the Hollow Knight at bay, the Knight did not strike it down. Instead, it struck the creature with the awoken dream nail and entered the dream realm.
The fucking sun!
It was in here that the Knight came face to face with the Moth of Light it had been crafted to contain. Only it would not contain the beast, it would destroy it. In a brutal battle, the Knight fought with the Radiance in all her glory. It evaded her powerful attacks and weakened her strike by strike. Having unified the Void under its will, the Void entered this dream with the Knight. So too did the Hollow Knight in its shade form, weakened by its ancient enemy. The Radiance was restrained as the vessel broke free of its form and its shade lashed out repeatedly at the Radiance. This
Damn,
entity
got goat
of
seed.
light, brighter than essence, was beaten and destroyed as the light inside of her bled out. Then her body was dragged by the Void into the darkness. The sacrifice of the vessel had destroyed the very light that had plagued Hallownest. In going against its father's plan, the population would dream no more of the Radiance. It had broken the cycle.
Yeah,
As
it has
Hornet
lore.
woke up, she saw the shattered mask of her sibling. She also saw that the Black Egg was gone. Hallownest was free. Deep down in the abyss, the shades of the children of the King and Queen of Hallownest were finally free to rest, and they returned to the Void.
I mean, most of the lore is just in the background. If you're not interested in it, you wouldn't really notice it. Cute bug, go pion pion.
While the Knight had destroyed the 3 seals of the
Oh,
Dreamers
DLC endings,
and
let's
had
go.
collected the Void Heart, instead of traveling to the Black Egg, it explored the royal waterways a little more. Inside, it came across the junk pit and the cocoon sealed in chains. With a key, the Knight freed the Godseeker trapped inside, picked up the God Tuner it dropped, and entered its mind with the Dream Nail. Instantly, the Godseeker was insulted that something as puny as the Knight had entered her realm. She sought gods, not cringers. She believed the gods connected to Godhome would destroy the Knight.
I'm a sucker for
Regardless
lore.
of her
I was a
thoughts,
FNAF
she
fan.
watched as the Knight attuned the
Nice.
gods of Hallownest to Godhome through ritual combat. Through each battle, each pantheon, the Knight defeated these powerful entities and
I wasn't able to
ascended
beat
minds
the
of
Pantheon
itself
3,
and
man.
the Godseekers.
I just gave
This
up.
allowed the Knight to attune to and fight even stronger and more powerful gods. The Godseekers had come to Hallownest to find the God of Gods. They wished to bask in its power. The Knight rose high in this godly coliseum and attuned to the mind of the Hollow Knight itself. Only in Godhome, it was viewed as the pure vessel. The defeat of the pure vessel
Oh.
had an interesting effect. It elevated the realm of Godhome and allowed the God-Seekers to discover the most powerful of the gods, or it allowed the God of Gods to discover them,
Oh, the
the
fucking sun.
absolute radiance. In this series of ritual combat, Godhome had connected to the dream realm of the trapped radiance, and she wanted to fight. In another battle between two very powerful entities, the knight fought with the absolute radiance, only as the one who had unified the void, the knight brought this darkness into the dream and conflict with it. As the battle came to an end, the night shell shattered and its shade fell into the void. From the darkness below, void tendrils latched onto the radiance as a large shade entity emerged from the shadows. Dubbed the Shade Lord, anything about
Oh,
this
that's what the
entity
Shade
is
Lord is.
completely unknown.
Oh, that's a
Whether
difference.
the knight transformed into it as a result of its ability to attune the gods, or whether it had simply waited in the abyss for its time to strike, is up to your interpretation. Still, the Shade Lord ripped open the mouth of the creature of light and struck it until it exploded into essence.
Embrace the void.
The destruction of absolute radiance at the top of Godhome had several effects. Within this dream realm created by the Godseekers through pure focus, void flooded from the clouds as the Shade Lord, or a void given focus, flew across this domain. From her throne, the Godseeker watched as this entity, a god of gods, took over her realm. She embraced the void as it destroyed her realm and its tendrils wrapped around her face and into her eyes. In Hallownest in the Junk Pit, void poured out of the Godseeker's physical form and tendrils slashed out aggressively. She had encountered what she had sought, but it had come at the cost of her life.
Ripperoni.
High above at the Temple of the Black Egg, Hornet looked around in confusion as the vines of infection around this region lost their power. The Radiance had been defeated somehow, and the infection had died. But
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we apparently if we defeated the Pantheon, so we defeated the Radiance there, then the Void takes over the Godseeker. Hornet, who was waiting on the Black Egg. Ah, okay. And that was the Hollow Knight who comes out from the egg, right?
the knight had not entered the Black Egg.
Yeah.
It had completed its task, but from afar.
Yeah, defeated it
However,
through
from
Wi-Fi
the
and
egg,
Bluetooth.
Hornet heard the stomps and chains of the Hollow Knight. It was no longer afflicted by the plague of the Radiance.
So is that a good
but
thing?
It still appeared to be aggressive. So she prepared her needle.
What does that mean, though?
If the knight had given the physical body of the Godseeker a delicate flower from Zemur before its battle with Absolute Radiance, these events would have played out slightly differently. The knight would have still defeated Absolute Radiance in exactly the same way. Hornet would have still noticed that the knight had stopped the infection and she would have still encountered the Hollow Knight. The difference here was that when the Void attacked the Godseeker in Godhome, and in turn travelled through her into the physical world, the delicate flower would have reacted interestingly upon contact with just a drop of void. The flower flashed brightly, and in this moment, the Godseeker and void around disappeared completely. All that remained was the flower.
So the flower
Whether
proof
this banished
purified the
whole
void then?
void of this land is unknown.
Wait, there's an end in 6?
The knight had met so
there's only
many
5 endings.
interesting
Or is that the
bugs
Mr.
on his
Mushroom?
journey. One of them was the Herald, of which the Mushroom tribe spoke of, Mr. Mushroom. Throughout its exploration of the many stunning regions of Hallownest, the knight had encountered Mr. Mushroom 7 times, and having worn the Spore Shroom charm, it had been able to understand the mushroom, but all it heard was riddles and mumbles. Even now, this entity is shrouded in so much mystery. He knew that worms pulled bugs into their thrall, developed kingdoms, and as the ages passed, they fell. He was the Herald, a symbol of the passing of an age.
It's quite interesting because mushrooms are basically like I guess plants if they count as plants. I don't know, but they come from like they basically biodegrade things, you know, like dead plants and stuff. They grow on that. So yeah, find it interesting that the what's the word for it, like harbinger of the end, I guess, is the mushroom.
Regardless of which path the knight followed and how it changed Hallownest, Mr. Mushroom decided
Hey,
it was
silly
time
Gorple.
to go.
I'm just watching lore, you know, lore. Since I'm gonna play Silk Song after this, yeah.
He spoke of sandy lands, vast ancient kingdoms, that Hallownest was not the first and that it would not be the last to fall. As Mr. Mushroom lore
Yeah. Yep, stinks. Hey, Darky Ree. Wait, you're not the first time chatter? I don't remember you. Hmm. Uh. Anyway, I wonder where Mr. Mushroom is going. To Silk Song. That's where Mr. Mushroom's going. To Silk Song.
launched
Totally.
into the sky on his way to a new kingdom. An age came to an end. Despite which ending the knight arrived at, Hallownest was changed forever. The Radiance was either contained or destroyed.
I mean, that is totally
completely,
possible. Something
and the
that they would
territories
do.
across this land would be free to rebuild.
Hey, Mira.
The Mosskin would continue to wait for Un to call them back to a dream. The Mantis would defend their village with aggression, and the beasts of Deepnest would attempt to return to a time.
Yeah, I think the mantises were immune to the radiance because they have the pure focus of murder. Damn, poor I be forgetting about me. Man, it's been a while, man. Like I'm checking your message history and it was like, when's this? Like what day was this? I'm scrolling through. Last month, 2 months ago. You were here 2 months ago. How am I supposed to remember you? Yeah. Because they were loyal, unlike the ones in the Queen's Gardens.
For their king had died.
I'd like to think they were so focused on being a murder hobo, but yeah.
And the queen had volunteered her mind. With many new adventurers and explorers having arrived in Hallownest during its period of stasis, these bugs could either simply explore a fallen kingdom or help rebuild it. The fate of Hallownest truly is up to you, the player,
Played League
and
with
your
Mira and
choice
Murray.
of how the knight's
Oh,
journey came
okay.
to
Now I
an
remember.
end.
Yeah.
Yet, if the Embrace the Void ending was considered true canon, then it would appear that Hallownest would be under attack from another force, Void, after the Void Beast traveled through the mind of the
Wait, are you guys not playing League right now? Why are you guys here?
Godseeker, the only weapon to stop it, light or a delicate flower. Team Cherry have stated that the canon ending is up to the player's choosing. However, with the Hollow Knight sequel on the way,
Oh damn,
it
is
would
this a trailer
suggest
for
that
Silk
the
Song?
second ending, Sealed Siblings, cannot be canon in any sense as
Just lurk right now. Been off Twitch for quite some time due to overloaded schedule. Damn. Hopefully you get to deal with all those stuff, you know, and you get free time to chill. Yeah.
Hornet leaves Hallownest and travels to Farloom, a kingdom ruled and haunted by silk and song.
Silk Song? Silk Song?
Pilgrimage. As of now, the fate of Hallownest
Tapos
is of
sumasabay
your
pa bagyo. Huhu.
choosing.
Oh, we had an earthquake in my area.
I have loved exploring Hollow Knight and Hallownest over the past few months. As you can see, I haven't posted a video in a couple of weeks because the research for this timeline was so time consuming and extensive. It was also completely
So you
worth
say
it.
food? Oh
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
one of
We'll
the
try. We'll
best
try.
stories I have explored, and I cannot wait for Silksong to come out so that I can explore another kingdom from the minds of
I
Team
heard nga
Cherry.
sunod-sunod na lindol. Hope
This
everyone's
video
safe.
would not
Yep,
have been
hopefully.
possible without Scarab, a mod manager, and these mods right here.
Hmm.
The Pale Court mod was also incredibly useful to see what other fans envisioned the 5 great knights of Hallownest to look like before its fall, and how they fought. I did my best to put this timeline into a chronological order, but with the way the story is told, it was pretty difficult to get it perfect, so I put the events in an order that made the most sense. The Dreamers can also be killed in any order, I think, but the order
Yeah.
I put them in
I
just
killed
made
the
sense for
Dreamers
the
in a
telling
different order
of
than
this
this guy
story.
did.
Normally, when I do these longer, in-depth timelines, I try to answer every question that I think of when I explore a world, but for Hollow Knight, I think I am okay with just wondering. Was Mr. Mushroom really a god? What was he? How did the Pale King die? The bodies of King's moles who guarded his throne suggest he was murdered. How did the Void kill many bugs out in Hallownest? These are mysteries I'm happy to just accept as mysteries. On a final note, I did want to add every story and bug I could into this timeline, but I did not just want to list things that happened or could happen in Hallownest. The Fluke Bomb, each individual warrior
disgusting.
dream, and Steel Soul Jin are also interesting, but I found telling every story would just have bloated the video. I'm sure Mossbag has probably covered them anyway. If you enjoyed this timeline, just go ahead and like the video and subscribe for more content like
already
this.
liked and
Share it with other
subscribed the
people
video.
who like Hollow Knight.
Yep,
I
yep.
hate doing these calls to actions, but I did put a lot of time into this video. Finally, I would like to thank my gold tier patrons and
Anyway, you should check out. Everyone should check out Skyrionn. You know, yeah, he made a cool timeline for the Hollow Knight, or maybe he'll make one in the future about Silksong. So yeah, I guess we basically got a quick rundown on the lore. I guess. Yep. Well, it's time for us to play Silksong. Yeah. OMG, I really need to play Hollow Knight. It has such a good lore and gameplay. Yeah, it has a good lore. It's more on the background really. If you're just into platforming and just killing stuff, you wouldn't really notice it because you gotta read. Yep. So the Hollow Knight Silk Song. I have it installed right now. I already set it up. Right, let me run it. Real. I heard that Silk Song is really good now. Yep. Wait, let me just go AFK real quick though. I'll be back. While Silk Song is loading up. So it quite intrigued me about the Hollow Knight franchise. Oh, well, if you don't like bugs in your game, Hollow Knight has a lot of bugs. If it bothers you, it's a very buggy game. Anyway, I gotta go AFK. I'll be back. I'll be back. I'm back. Okay, let me just. Hmm. Hi, Sierra and Mira. Have a good one. Hollow Knight. Okay, there's audio. Let's go. Let me just give me a moment. Let me just put this down. Covering stuff. Right, let me just restart my stream real quick.